Peace to everyone. I hope everybody had a peaceful day today, despite the rain and coolness. My name is Susan Tamondong. I'm from the Philippines originally. I currently live in France. My husband is French. He's over there taking a picture. And the IDEAS, which is the International Development Evaluation Association, is a global organization. We operate in about 90 countries, no, more than 50 countries actually. And we are a voluntary organization, and we try to promote evaluation as a way to have public accountability and to have transparency. We try to train young people and other evaluators to do quality work and to refine methodologies on how to do it. And we currently have a book which is free. You can download it on our website. It's called The Evaluation for Agenda 2030, Measuring the Progress of Sustainability and Progress. It's related to Clive's talk when he talks about, and my colleague Her, who is a board member of IDEAS, when we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals that had been set by the United Nations. So in this book, which I hope you will find interesting, and as I mentioned, it's free, we don't have the hard copies for sale because Amazon was charging us $140. So we decided to have it accessible for everyone for free. So if you download it in our website, you can get it for free. It talks about climate change, policy, environment, capacity building, and all sorts of very interesting topics. You're welcome to browse over it. It will be in my desk later on. I would like to also mention that I'm actually carrying two hats. In the website of Uniting for Peace, I'm listed as an advisor to the UN Women, which I am. And I am appointed to this 3 years ago, and I'm currently still serving as an advisor to the UN Women. And my hat as a VP for IDEAS is about to fall off because next week I will not be a VP anymore. I've been there 6 years, so now there will be elections, so a new person is going to come in. But I would like to take you back before I talk about what women do for peace, or what the role of women for peace and how important it is. I want to take you back decades and decades ago. Decades and decades ago, I was a teenager. And when I was 15 to be exact, I was an ambassador for peace. I came from Philippines, sent to the US to stay 1 year with an American family to share my culture and to promote peace. At that time, at a young age, I didn't know what it meant. All I knew was it was a competitive scholarship, which I was lucky enough to get, and I was exposed to the activities promoting peace. And it's a program called AFS, International Intercultural Programs, based in New York. It was actually started by two German and American truck driver during World War II. They were assigned to carry all the dead bodies that were victims of war. And they were so horrified doing this, and they themselves decided that this should not happen ever again. So they decided to recruit a few of their truck drivers who believe in the same thing. Everybody was so horrified by war that they said this should not happen again. And what can we do to prevent this from happening again? So they decided that they start on a person-to-person, family-to-family approach. So they decided to send their children to the US children going to Germany, and try to experience each other's culture and bridge the differences. Because one of the reasons why there's war is because we don't understand each other. So by doing this, they decided we would be able to understand each other, we'll be friends, and we will avoid war. And years later, over 100 countries participated in this program. It's still alive right now. I think UK is a member, Philippines is still a member, and it's still going on in many countries. And it is a very effective way to actually instill in young minds that we need to have peace, that we need to understand each other, that culture, although it could be different depending on which country we are from, but really there's a lot of similarities among us. I was in Mexico just 2 months ago, and I met a lady who was in her 80s. Her daughter was married to an Italian guy who were in their 30s, And the mother, who was in her 50s, all of them was in the program. So we met in Mexico, and we were coming from different countries, different era, and all of a sudden it's like we were brothers and sisters. It's an amazing program. Anyway, this really affected my life, and so since then I have been advocating for peace in all my work, in everything that I did. And I've been lucky because I have joined the UN and also the World Bank, and all of the time, I mean, these are agencies that advocate for peace in their different ways, and I continue to do so. In fact, when I was a student, I studied in Oxford. I did my doctorate in Oxford in St. Anthony's, and when I first arrived, I realized that it was ethnocentric. I was there in 92, just after the Berlin Wall was let down, and people were very ethnocentric. I noticed that in the cafeteria, people were eating in different corners. The British in one corner, Germans in another, Americans in another, Africans in another, and the rest of the world. And I talked to the dean and I said, how can this be? At St. Anthony's is an international college. Shouldn't we be doing something? This doesn't seem right. So I was an activist in Oxford. I started a movement called ICC, Intercultural Committee, which has only two very simple objectives: to promote peace, to understand each other, and to try to promote culture from different countries. So I convinced the head of the restaurant. I mean, we have a cafeteria in the college, and we always had British food. I love British food, but it would be nice if we also had Chinese, African, Latin American, other kinds of cuisine. I convinced them. I said, could we have a different menu at least twice a week? It was a struggle, but because I had the support of the dean, they agreed. So then everybody got exposed to different cuisines. And then we would have some potluck parties on weekends. We would actually bring potluck, food from your country. And it worked really well. And I also asked the accommodations officer, can we please mix ourselves in the college rooms? Because we all had to live for 2 years in the college. And we all have houses where we all got grouped. Everybody was grouped according to nationality. So this is not right. Can we mix it up, please? And again, it was a struggle, but I succeeded. So the houses were full of different colors in different countries. And for the last 5 years after I started this group, then I went off to do my fieldwork. The atmosphere of the college just completely changed. And just before I left, we had a big concert. And in this concert, the students of St. Anthony's decided to create an atmosphere of peace and intercultural understanding. And we had a group called the St. Anthony's Blues that created a band with about 5 nationalities and performed a beautiful concert. And we invited some rock stars from London who came in for free. And I tell you, it was in 1995, it rocked Oxford. And all the academics in my college were really conservative. They said, who is behind this? You must be an activist. And I said, I'm on my way out. So it really was a great impact. And I had a video of that. One day I could show it to you, but this kind of thing really made a difference. And I was in the papers and they institutionalized this, and all the other colleges in Oxford followed. And so that was one example on how peace could be achieved. It's a small way, but it was a great way and a very effective way of doing it. We were non-political, just doing simple things, and yet it worked. So let me go back to the role of women and how the UN Women actually helps to promote peace through women. I'm gonna look at my notes, if you don't mind, and put on my glasses, because I've got some figures here. Okay, 2 billion people in 35 countries are affected by fragility, violence, and conflict. This is a World Bank figure that has just come out. Historically, sexual and gender-based violence was considered inevitable, and it's a product of war. After World War II, for example, the charters of the military tribunal in Nuremberg and Tokyo did not explicitly recognize, and they excluded sexual and gender-based crimes for punishable acts. War and conflict affect both women and men, but there are particularly gender dimensions to violence that have disproportionately and differently impacted on women. During the times of instability, women and girls are disproportionately impacted by sexual and gender-based evidence and crimes. But while anyone can experience violence, the unequal power relationships and entrenched gender inequalities have desperate impact on women and girls. Women are often have fewer resources to protect themselves, and they are exposed to vulnerabilities. In 2016, for example, the percentage of signed peace agreements containing gender-specific provisions declined to 50% compared to 70% in 2014. So we are seeing right now a decline in support for women and gender-specific provisions to protect our women. When women lead and participate in peace processes, peace lasts longer. And since the groundbreaking UN Security Council Resolution 1325 that was passed 17 years ago, calling for women's participation in peace building, there has been a mounting evidence that women are powerful actors in sustaining peace in their communities and in the nation. Research has also shown that achieving gender equality helps to prevent conflict, and the high rates of violence against women correlates with the outbreaks of conflict. For justice to work and for peace to sustain, women must be able to define and experience justice. I have simple personal suggestions. On the simple side of things, on the micro side of things, I believe that peace can be achieved on a person-to-person and experiential experience. It starts with ourselves, peace with ourselves, peace with our family, with our community, before we go into global, to the society. And on the macro level, it is so important for us to be involved in peace movements, like what we are doing here. We need to have vigilance, but we should not stop there. We have to have action. We cannot just talk, or we cannot just listen, or we cannot just read. We actually need to do something. And for us to do something, there are different ways of doing it. We can join the peace movements, we can protest, we can speak, and now with the social media, we can get our voices heard. It is only by doing that that we can actually achieve something, whether it's on a person-to-person basis or whether on a global scale. Thank you.